environmental stewardship goals. You want me to wait? Okay. And they're listed here. By 2050, the dairy industry wants to collectively achieve greenhouse gas neutrality, obtain water use while maximizing recycling of that water, and improve water quality by optimizing utilization of manure and nutrients and taking advantage. I think this morning we heard in that panel a couple of points addressing this. One is greenhouse gas neutrality might not be achievable. There is biology involved. Microbes in human cell or animal cells are not 100% efficient. They never will be. There's always heat produced. There's always CO2 produced. That's a loss. So efficiency is always going to have a biological limit. I appreciated this morning that there was actually a recognition of that point. That doesn't mean you can't balance maybe capturing carbon in the soil for long term relative to how much methane is produced. But the reality that we're not going to stop methane production in a rumen is real. I'm a animal scientist. I got to show a picture of a cow. This is a good cow, evergreen, affectionately known as 1326. She held the world record for a period of time. I think it was only like 2-3 months. The reason I got her up here is because her sire was bred in Idaho on Stouter Farms down in Filer Buell. So local cows, if you will, high producing cows. This cow averaged 198 pounds of milk per day. So just to keep that in perspective, 198 pounds is a pretty good production when the average is somewhere around 65, 68 pounds in the US. So we can aspire to that cow as a model because she is, in fact, I'll show you in the next couple of slides, is very, very environmentally sustainable. This is just classic changes in the dairy industry that have occurred since 1944. You can see significant increase in total milk production in the US, but if you look at milk per cow, the annual increase has been dramatic, going from about 2,000 kilos per lactation to almost 9,000 into 2007. And in that period of time, we don't need a whole lot more milk, and so the number of dairy cows has decreased. So the population of the dairy industry has gone from about 25 million down to that 9.2, 9.3, 9.5 million cows across the US. Again, I would hope that you would recognize that that has to be environmentally sustainable as an approach to minimize that footprint of the dairy industry. The problem we have, particularly in Idaho and other parts of the US, is the dairy industry is very concentrated. 15 counties represent some 75, 80% of the milk production in the US. This work out of O'Hara is showing the trends that happened with regards to the dairy milk production as well as greenhouse gas emissions from 1990 to 2019. The blue line here is the milk production in teragrams. I don't remember what that was, but this is about 220 billion pounds of milk in 2019. You can see a nice steady increase from 1990 in total milk production. And if we remember back to that last slide, there's a slight decrease in cow numbers over that period of time. So you know what milk production has to go up per cow. But it also breaks out then the enteric emissions in orange or red or whatever that color is versus the manure emissions related to that dairy farm. And back in 1990, about 60% of those emissions were coming from enteric emissions from the cow. But you can see over those 20-year period here, maybe a slight increase in emissions from cows, but not dramatic compared to the emissions that have come from manure side of that equation. So in this period, nearly 50% increase in milk production, about a 40% increase in dairy farm greenhouse gas emissions. That is more reflected in the increase in manure emissions, not in enteric methane emissions. Try to explain that in a few slides. This is my animal science training. Came out of Cornell, Dale Bauman, BST world, looking at efficient cows, why are cows, some cows really good producers and some not so good producers. If you look at the energy requirement for a cow that's 650 kilograms producing 3.7% milk fat, you can see that there is a maintenance requirement for energy for every cow at that given weight of about 10 megacals of energy per day. That's a fixed cost. Nobody can avoid it. Okay? If she produces a whopping 7 kilograms per day, that extra energy she consumes to meet those needs represents about 31% of that total energy that she consumes. She's not very efficient in that. A cow here that's producing about 100 pounds of milk a day, about 75% of the energy she consumes goes to milk. And only 25% is going to that fixed cost of maintenance. So from an energetic standpoint, she is much, much, much more efficient. And if you go back to that, you're going to double this. So it's about 85% for that cow that was producing nearly 200 pounds of milk a day. So the way the dairy cow gets more efficient is to make more milk because she has that fixed cost to maintain her body throughout that period of life. This is called dilution of maintenance, well-described approach that been studied for years and years and years. That increased production definitely is more efficient and leads to more sustainable dairy production because I could have not just focused on energy here. We could have looked at manure output or urinary output or greenhouse gas output per unit of milk produced, and they would have all improved as you increase in milk production. So how has that occurred? It's occurred through the selection, genetic selection, genomic selection in today's world, using markers early on in life, identifying high-value cows, high-value bulls. I'll say precision nutrition. I teach nutrition. We're balancing rations for dairy cows, 45, 50 different nutrients on a daily basis, mixing up a total mixed ration that delivers in every bite a complete package to that cow. One of the challenges for me of a voluntary milking system or a robotic milking system is that they're going to be feeding grain in one portion and forage in the other. And that's a real challenge because the cow gets to select how much forage they eat. You're not offering them the balanced package that you might want to offer them. Definitely improvements in animal health and longevity have led to that improvements in dilution of maintenance, cow comfort, heat abatement, shade structures, actively using environmental cooling is a part of, evaporative cooling is a key part of making sure that cows are healthy in hot environments. I put BST down here, that was the first biotech product out there on the markets. I can tell you, if you give the U.S. dairy herd BST tomorrow, you can reduce the number of cows 10%. You want to have an impact on environmental sustainability? Let's get BST back into the equation. Does not have any negative impacts on the cow. There are many feed additives now being promoted to reduce methane production in the rumen. Bovaer, thank you for reminding me the commercial trade name, 3-NOP, oils, algae, seaweeds. There's a whole mix of products being tested, but they will reduce enteric methane production, but they're really not being adopted at any great rate at this point because dairymen are not paid on reduction of methane yet. And then sex semen means, one, you get more heifers, you may be more selective. It also meant that the bull population, the total dairy bull population in the U.S. has dropped dramatically because you didn't have to prove all these bulls. So you can identify just a few excellent ones, give them the right semen, and you're good to go. It also means now we have the opportunity to have beef on dairy component, which reduces that environmental impact of the dairy industry and aids, if you will, the beef industry, because you can be providing beef animals through the dairy. Oh my gosh, I better move faster. Enteric emissions by region have declined over time, really across all regions, including Idaho in the gray here. So that's really related to increased milk production per cow. What about the gray bars here, the greenhouse gas emissions from manure? They continue to increase. And the thought is it's really because we've gone from smaller farms to larger farms that now are really dealing with liquid manure management. So we have a lot of extra potential greenhouse gas production in lagoons or in other wet piles compared to the small dairies and the dry stacking that occurred in those dairies. And you can see that this is different from region to region across the U.S. Because of moving from small farms to large farms has created that liquid manure that has more greenhouse gas potential. It also means that larger farms can address these efficiencies maybe a little better because they can afford the larger investments that are required to manage that manure. This slide just comes from the U.S. Dairy Net Zero Initiative. It just shows the different sources. And I'm going to highlight here some of the impacts of the ISED project in particular. A lot of effort on the feed production side, nutrient management of crops, cover crops, precision agriculture, and water use efficiency. And then on the manure side, a couple of different technologies many different technologies being tested in renewable fertilizer and nutrient water recovery. These include different additives to compost, bioplastic production, screening, centrifuge separation to improve nutrient recovery or minimize losses, hydrothermal carbonization, ammonia stripping, acid absorption, and reactive filtration. And the hope here is that we can offer dairy producers a suite of choices that might fit best for their operation that allow them to create some financial opportunities as well as improve environmental sustainability. So with regards to conclusions here, there's continued effort towards increased milk production is needed because that is the way we dilute that fixed cost for each cow. There's still plenty of work with average at 68 pounds. In the new world record cow, I think, it's average 228 pounds of milk a day. So substantial room to improve the bulk of the U.S. herd, which means if we're not producing any more milk in total or consuming any more milk in total, we can reduce the number of cows in the U.S. And certainly there's opportunities for technologies in manure management beyond just energy production. There are many other byproducts possible that could feed crops, that could improve soil health. We just really started the tip of the iceberg to do that. And so this conference has been good in enlightening me about some of those other opportunities that are out there. Happy to entertain questions.